I want to take this quick moment here to thank everyone who helped me on the Raid Shadow Legends campaign. I know that not everyone likes the sponsorships and I completely understand that, yet many of you did help and I'm deeply moved by the amount of support. So thank you to every single one of you. Now, thanks to all of you, we will be working on the Shadow Fail for our next huge video. This is of course thanks to all of you who voted as well on the last video. And those of you who want to send me art for me to use in that video, make sure to send anything you draw over to rhexxart@gmail.com, and I'll go ahead and use it and attribute it to whatever name you give me so that you can see it on the video. The email is in the description below. Also, you will see throughout the video everyone who helped me complete the Raid Shadow Legends campaign. You will see it in this box down below. There is just a big thank you for all of you, and of course there's going to be another big thank you at the end, so wait for that. But anyways, on to the video. So in our last video we covered the Succubi, a temptress monster who lives in the lower planes and preys on men and women by seducing them and corrupting them. Today we're going to be talking about the Erinyes, who share a lot of similarities but are intrinsically very different. But before we cover those differences, let's first go over and see what the monster manual tells us about this creature. Now, interestingly, this is at least a top 3 of the ones we get the least amount of info for, so I'm just gonna go ahead and read it all. It says here, they are the most beautiful and striking of all lesser and greater devils. The Erinyes are fierce and disciplined warriors. Sweeping down from the skies, they bring swift death to creatures that have wronged their masters or defied the edicts of Asmodeus. The Erinyes appear as male or female humanoids with statuesque builds and large feathery wings. Most wear stylized armor and horned helms and carry exquisite swords and bows. A few also use ropes of entanglement to ensnare powerful foes. Legends tell that the first Erinyes were angels that fell from the upper planes because of temptation or misdeed. Erinyes are always willing to take advantage of being mistaken for celestials in their missions of conquest and corruption. That's really all we have. Down here we have the picture and the stat sheet. They are of course very powerful, congruent with the fact that they used to be angels, so it makes sense. They're basically supposed to be perfect and their high stats surely show that. We have traditional devilish weaknesses to silver and devilish resistances to cold and fire. True sight is huge, and you will see why later. Their weapons deal poison damage, which is a little random to be honest, but everything else is pretty normal. Just normal sword strikes and bow strikes, nothing crazy to see here. So now with that out of the way, let's go ahead and see what the monster manual does not tell us about the Erinyes. First things first, I think it is probably a good idea to differentiate them from the Succubi because from a simple glance, I think it is fairly understandable how these two creatures could be mistaken for one another. For one, they both share the fallen angel backstory, they are both attractive women with wings, and both can and will try and seduce you in order to corrupt you, but that's really where the similarities die. When it comes to looks, they are actually very different. Succubi have horns, Erinyes do not. They like to wear horned helmets in their uniforms, but they actually do not possess actual horns. That's very important. Succubi have tails, Erinyes do not. Succubi have bat wings, while Erinyes have feathery wings. The trick here is that Succubi are literally fiends. You see them, and then you see in them every single attribute that you would give to a fiend. The horns, the devilish tail. Some Succubi in the lore even have goat legs, so they are as fiendish as they can ever be. Erinyes are supposed to be angels, that's it. There is nothing else to it. To you and to everyone, they will simply look like angels to the point where they can fool most people when they go into the prime material plane. The art in 5th edition shows them with dark red bloody wings, but if you look into the art of 2nd edition, you will see that they don't even need to look crimson or even evil. At the end of the day, what they are is simply angels who want to do evil and have sided with the forces of Bator. So why do the Succubi and the Erinyes look different, if they are both fallen angels? So the backstories for both creatures are fairly similar in that way, but it all comes back to the very specific reason why those two types of angels fell and why they did it. First of all, Succubi were angels of love, basically divinely constructed to have power over love. They wanted to utilize that power without being slaves to the gods, and so they simply seeked independence. Counter that with the Erinyes, who are simply just angels who fell for greed and power, angels that just simply turned evil, or angels that simply vowed to work for Asmodeus. The backstory claims that the succubi were some of the original angels who came down to hell when it was still a paradise, and then they burned alongside that paradise and everything turned into the 9 hells. It also somewhat speaks of curses afflicted by the gods. Now, the transformation from love angel to succubi was this one-time thing that happened eons ago, and the reason we have so many succubi nowadays is merely because, thanks to the powers of the abyss, they have managed to gain the ability to reproduce. Erinyes are not a one-time thing. Any angel that falls supposedly turns into an Erinyes if they join the armies of Asmodeus. There are no further curses applied in here, but in essence, to really solidify the differences here, succubi are all about lust, and they exist in both the abyss and in hell, whereas the Erinyes are just evil angels that specifically work only for Asmodeus, and that's it. Anyways, enough about the succubi, let's just focus on our topic from here on out. So Erinyes are obviously very special, being fallen angels and all that, but you might not understand just really how special they are in hell. Erinyes, for whatever reason, are not duplicitous as real devils, that being as devils created from mortals. This grants them a lot of respect and usage from higher ranked devils, specifically from archdukes who can reliably trust them with important tasks. Part of this loyalty coming from them stems from their angelic backstory, but the real reason here is because Erinyes straight up have no interest in ever getting promoted, which means they have no interest in backstabbing devils or their leaders in order to advance in the hierarchy. The reason why they have no interest in advancing is because Erinyes have the singular most important power that every single other devil covets above all. They have the power to leave the 9 hells at will. Every other devil has to be summoned via a complex ritual by a mortal to be able to leave. Even succubi require to corrupt the mind of a sleeping person before they can be summoned by that person, but not Erinyes, who can simply just travel at will. Alright, to be fair, there is another type of devil called the Harvester Devil, who can also travel at will, but that's beside the point. Erinyes are very special in this regard is my point. Now, the monster manual definitely didn't tell you this, but because of this very unique feature of the Erinyes, they are specifically given the ability to perform Faustian Pacts in the material plane, and in fact, that's one of their main purposes for leaving the 9 hells. So first of all, their main job in the material plane is to gather souls for Bator. Now, most times this is not too wholly difficult. Sometimes literally all you have to do is grab a person and then drop it in hell, and many Erinyes do just that. A mortal that dies in the 9 hells is reborn as a devil for all eternity, so an Erinyes will sometimes attempt to guile mortals or seduce them or trick them into entering the hells with them. Now sometimes though, they straight up force them by literally just tying them up and then taking them by force, which is where the Rope of Entanglement comes into play. I know that a lot of you were probably wondering what the purpose for the rope was. It seems kind of random considering that it is just kind of there with no explanation. So the thing is, when an Erinyes forcefully takes a mortal into hell for whatever reason, they cannot enter with inorganic material on them, that being the soul that they're trying to corrupt. Those people can't enter with weapons or even clothes for that matter, so the Erinyes simply unclothe them completely and then tie them up with their ropes to take them there. Now the thing about souls is that the more powerful they are in life, the more valuable and powerful they are in death, especially if the soul is good and just. The more it takes for a soul to be corrupted, the more valuable the transformation is into devil. This is why sometimes an Erinyes can't just trick or seduce her way into a corruption, because she's probably dealing with a particularly honor-bound or stubborn person, and this is where the Faustian Pacts come into play. So a Faustian Pact is literally a devil contract, where you sign your soul for wealth or power. This is what makes the Erinyes cool and interesting and unique, is that they and the Harvester Devils are the only ones whose basic main job is to go out into the mortal realm and trick people into becoming devils. And the Erinyes do this either by seducing them or making them sign these contracts. Now, we can talk about all the different types of contracts when we talk about hell in a future video, but for now, know that this is why they're particularly unique and special, because they are the only type of devil that can basically do this. What's even more interesting though is that this level of trust and power doesn't end in the material plane. The Erinyes in Hell are also specifically charged with maintaining the law. If a devil, for example, becomes a fugitive, it is the Erinyes who are tasked with finding them and killing them, especially if the devil has somehow escaped into the material plane. Erinyes are particularly good at capturing fugitives in the mortal or lower planes because of their ability to move freely through the planes, and their constant and permanent true sight allows them to gaze upon those hiding invisibly or ethereally. This is also another reason why they're supposed to be carrying powerful ropes, for catching malcontents and criminals. Their distaste for breaking the law and their taste for regulation is so strong that they're even charged with being lawyers in hell. So if you sign a devil contract, for example, and you feel like the devil hasn't done his part of the bargain as the contract ordained, you can actually bring this up to the courts in hell. The lawyers in this case are typically the Erinyes, and if you do not have a lawyer yourself or cannot bring your own lawyer to hell, then you're actually given an Erinyes to defend you. Because of how lawful these creatures are and how much they respect the law, they will not cheat you out of a fair legal system, and the Erinyes that is given to counsel you will 100% defend you in law to the greatest extent of its abilities. This is literally canon, guys. It's funny, but it is lore. You can find this in the Fiendish Codex number 2, Tyrants of the Nine Hells. To give you even more context as to how far they can go, there is a city called Grenpoli on the 7th layer of Hell. It's the only city actually governed and ruled by an Erinyes, and the way it's run, it's really cool. So in the city, violence of any kind is forbidden. Wit and guile are the only permissible weapons. Because of the incredible wards casted on the city, no weapons are ever allowed to enter. If you somehow smuggle a weapon inside, it'll be teleported back to your home, even if that home is in another plane. Spells that deal damage simply do not work in the city, and all summoning spells automatically fail. It is a haven for pure politics, where you defeat your opponents through intrigue. Because of this, the city serves as an accidental sanctuary for non-devil residents of Bator who come here because they cannot be prosecuted or forcefully taken by other devils. Thanks to this, the city houses a slowly growing population of mortal malcontents from 1,000 worlds. The place is also a famous neutral ground for rival devils to work out their differences or to forge deals without fears of ambush. In the city, there's only one single punishment for breaking the law, and that is execution. The place is run by an Erinyes called Misdamned, who has an implacable sense of justice. Another thing that makes them cool is their unique ability to reproduce among devils. Quote, "While all devils can mate with and impregnate mortals, only Erinyes, pleasure devils, and unique female devils are capable of becoming pregnant. Whether they possessed this ability in the upper planes or gained it during their descent remains an unanswered question. Because they retain this capacity only in these forms, they often resist promotion into other forms. These female devils standoffishly view themselves as superior to those formed from the souls of the damned. The animosity they feel towards full-blown Batesu is reciprocal. Despite the orders of their superiors, this enmity occasionally breaks out into outright violence. At the same time, though, other devils envy, lust after, and idolize Erinyes and their ilk. Young Erinyes are the only true offspring raised in Bator. Their parents are fiercely protective of them and keep their colonies well hidden from interlopers." End quote. Most of the Erinyes that you see today in Hell, especially those that simply scout around or fight in armies, are merely the descendants of those original fallen angels from eons ago. There is a little bit of uncertainty actually on whether you can actually promote a normal devil into an Erinyes. Some books say that you can and others say that you cannot, but you can definitely promote an Erinyes into other things, though as we have established before, they typically do not want to do it or they risk losing all of these factors that already make them unique and special. You might scoff at it honestly, but being able to feel sexual desire is actually a massive improvement from not being able to. Many devils actually do enjoy getting intoxicated and enjoying sin, even though most physically cannot. This is why many devils envy the Erinyes and why they see themselves as superior to other devils. Quote, even though they have no need to reproduce, some devils receive pleasure from engaging in sexual behavior. The more human-like the devil, the more likely it is to feel sexual desire, often accompanied by a twisted, selfish need for love and affection. Erinyes, chained devils, amnesu, and harvester devils are notoriously prone to such temptations. Likewise, sexual intrigue provides a motivation for many of the grudges and alliances behind archducal politics. Like intoxication, sexual behavior with its destabilizing and even chaotic potential is reserved as a privilege of the mighty. End quote. And this is another reason why devils strive so hard to become powerful and blessed by Asmodeus, because they are literally given sometimes the ability to enjoy the physical comforts, and that's a big deal, man. Now, if you're a particularly powerful or good Erinyes, you can be improved into a more powerful form called a Brachina, known as a pleasure devil. This form behaves more like a succubus in that their main motivation becomes to corrupt men and women through lust, especially priests and clerics of good religions. These forms are given beauty that equals that of a succubus, making them almost hauntingly gorgeous. But now that's basically what we got for Erinyes. They are typically not a focus point in lore, so we don't really have much on them, as much as we would like, and as much as other types of devils possess, even though they are so unique. I mean, man, they're fallen angels, and that's awesome, but yeah, for some reason, there just isn't much on them. In 2nd edition, they had the ability to charm people, very similar to vampires, where if you got charmed by them, you were basically screwed. They could command you to even kill yourself, which is insane, considering that you honestly don't see that type of charm power anywhere anymore. The charm would also last forever without a specific way to break it. It was so strong, it made sense why they just completely got rid of it. You saw it in 2nd edition and then in no other editions. The creature also had a magical dagger with poison on it in 1st edition, which I assume is where they got the poison concept in 5th edition. But yeah, that's basically all we got. Now, once again, guys, thank you so much for helping me with the whole raid campaign. I know that not everyone likes the sponsorships, but it really did help, and a lot of you helped, and I wanted to thank you all for it. This that you saw there was the top 10 of the people that basically played the most in the game using my referral code. So, of course, a big thank you to those here, and a special thank you to Pearl, Pedro, Tim, Joel, and Angie for helping me with the campaign as well. If you guys want to play the game, I do highly recommend that. It is a fun game. It is in the description below. You can click it and make an account using my referral link and go ahead and play it. You get like free tokens, you get a free champion. It's all good. It's a fun game, so I definitely highly recommend it. It's still there if you want to access it. Now, with all of that being said, I would like to personally thank my Patreon supporters: Zach Bowell, Rukato Fan, Barry Maskant, 5E Magic Shop, Daniel Umar, Major Fail Gaming, Morgan Johnson, Rusty Rain, Biotechnofrag, Daniel Luna, Doug Feeder, Brad Salazar, Terry Culp, Omega Scales, Walker Motley, Baracus Law, Karathas the Bulwark, Siren King, Ozol, Soundtech, Ariel Nelson, Alex Cookson, Square Chicken, Griffin Pierce, Falky951, Benjamin Bosters, Io is Awesome, Mr. Salty, Thomas Hunt, Drayden, Tesla Coil, The Role Playing Junkies Podcast, Silent Shoppa, Prince Daylight Crown, Jericho Darkstar, Sabine Kurshab, Troll Skull Dude, Solarensis, Ordoric, William Slatton, Draglogia 5, Nathan McCumb, Shadow Raven Phoenix, Bushido Burrito, I love that name, AJ Dare Music, Soulless Rider, and Tactical Tokens for supporting me on Patreon at the $25 level. If you would like to support me as well, then please head on over to patreon.com/MrRex to support. Alright guys, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Our next video is going to be a long as hell video on the Shadowfell. If you guys have art, make sure to send it on the description below. There's the email, send it to that email. And yeah, otherwise, thank you for watching and thank you for being awesome, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.